right, the conversation begins right now. The platform we give to the young people and hear their voices and conversations across board, from politics to their life at the university. We'll find out from them. They're already here with us in studio. Mushoki Kirera, President, Technical University of Kenya. We also have Cynthia Darao, Wasa, President at the Egerton University Student Association. Monica Malit is here, President, UNSA, University of Nairobi Students Association. And Geoffrey Toom, President, Daystar University. We're still waiting for Ibrahim Ahmed, President, Mount Kenya University. As soon as he comes in, we'll rope him into the conversation. But I'd like to hear your views at Trevor Mbija to Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. And Mushoki, I'll start with you now that you're the first one here anyway. In your view, is the country heading in the right direction or the wrong direction, and why?
So, Trevor, I'd say that the country is headed in the right direction.
Right direction.
Yes. Okay. I believe that the president and his government really do have the best interest of the country at heart. Reason being, I have been a leader for a bit of time, and I always do put my constituents or by my people at the forefront of every decision that I do make. So in as much as we do have to feel the pinch in one direction, then at the end of the day, we need to realize that things will come out in a particular way, in a good way. It might take time. We will need to really move out of our comfort zone, but at the end of the day, things will actually move in a good direction. The only problem that I do have, Trevor, to be honest, is matters education. Okay. I strongly feel that the direction we are pushing in terms of higher education is not good, and there are so many things that need to be done differently. Let's just get into a bit of the statistics. So, for example, recently, there were 870,000, I think 561 applications to, people who completed high school. Only 285,000 got into university, yeah? So we have a gap of around over 585,000 students who are nowhere to be seen. Literally, on the map, they're just black dots. What that creates is a pool of people who do not have a particular sense of direction. We cannot account for them. What does that do? That increases our risk in having people who get into robbery, into crime, into other things that we cannot be able to track. I think those are some of the things that probably the government needs to look into, especially the Ministry of Education. Okay. And apart from that, again, as I mentioned, matters education. You cannot be a developing country and limit the amount of effort you put into higher education. It does not work like that. Currently, we need so many engineers. We have over 20,000 graduate engineers. Only 3,000 engineers are certified. Some of the things the government needs to do is probably look at how to make the regulations or requirements a bit less steep so that we are able to accommodate more people into engineering, into the engineering sector, more certified engineers, build this country. Okay. If you look at it through this lens, you come to realize that in this direction, higher education, you're not doing that good. We're looking at students as liabilities rather than assets, and we are assets. Okay. So yes, I'll put more.
Interesting views. Yeah, we'll get into that in just a bit and talk about the higher education and plus the funding itself. But Geoffrey, what are your thoughts? Is the government heading in the right direction or the wrong direction, and why?
Thank you, Trevor. In my opinion, until the government shows us the method they're using to determine the needy students, the most needy and the least needy, so that they can allocate this funding to them, then we'll be certified to say that it is the correct model. But as history tells us, for example, my university, Daystar, the government owes the university an arrears of more than 600 million. In the year 2022, 2023, the arrears were coming to 300 million. So the universities were feeling the pinch. And when such a case occurs, then quality of education goes down. Yeah? And I really want to commend all the universities in Kenya for staying afloat during these hard times. So right now, what you're waiting to see, we're waiting to see whether this model will be coined in a way to benefit the comrade. Number two, the comrade now stands at a point where they're asking themselves, yes, I'm going to acquire a loan from the government. Will I get the job to pay back this loan? Yeah? Because the current situation in Kenya, we are not really, from what we see from graduates, we are not really ensured of landing a job. And you see, this impacts us because now you're expecting me to take a loan and I don't know how I'm going to pay the loan, Trevor. So until these issues are resolved, then we'll be more than willing to get into this system. Okay. But until they're resolved, my point is that We just have to wait and see.
Okay. Cynthia, what are your thoughts? I see you've decided to deviate into the education direction, which is fine because that's where you guys are.
Yeah, that's where we belong. Thank you, Trevor. For me, I think we're headed in the right direction, especially when it comes to matters education. Because recently I was involved in the orientation of my first years. And can you imagine they had only to come with accommodation fee and money for food. Kenya has never headed to the right direction more than now, because I believe the child of the needy will be able to join campus at an affordable price. And I think the direction the government is headed to is a direction of ensuring that there is zero illiteracy. Yes, and I will highly support it. Yes, and they're using the means testing instrument, and I think it will work because they are using the KRA pins of the parents, and that is an appropriate way of measuring the level of income that is earned by the parents. And this means testing instrument is going to help. And I think they're even using the systems they used in high school, the NEMIS system. It has a lot of data containing about these students, and it will help them to accurately align these students into the system. So for me, I think we are headed in the right direction, and illiteracy will be a thing of the past. And I can't wait to see what the future holds for us as a country. Thank you.
Okay, Monica?
Thank you so much. And I'll have to say that it's never a wrong direction anyway, but a lot of confusion that comes in terms of understanding the system that is being tried to be, being brought up, actually. I was in the HELP, there was a meeting we had in Naivasha regarding HELP and how it can be improved to help students now that it is the biggest loan in Kenya. But I realized that every year there is a drop in the number of people being sponsored by the government and the number of people being given the loan. And it shows that in the education sector, there is much more to be done in terms of funding. Because if you hear that there is less number of students are admitted to public, are called by the government and are eligible for loans, and now that it has been taken in a way, the new model, it's coming up, it shows that there is much more to be done. Actually, in as much as it is the direction, yes, that is being taken, but what is government doing to make the student understand? Because even those already in the universities don't understand. Mm-hmm. So what I'm bringing about there is engagement from the word go, for us to understand that this is the right direction we are taking. It might be understandable to them. I know the vice chancellors and other stakeholders in the education sector were involved, but I didn't see that there is a way to leaders were given, or the students. At times we say to your leaders, and this year I'm the leader, but next year I'm gone. So can we engage students, and can we make even the parents understand? Because there's a lot of confusion, and that makes it feels like it is the wrong direction. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing I'm seeing. And then again, we should improve on every year there should be an increase. Because you can't expect to drop. So if you drop in the number of people being sponsored by the government, being taken to school, if you drop in the number of people being helped by loan, and again, this contributes to the fact of people defaulting to pay back the loans. Actually, you just graduated, you're given some years to come back and start paying your loan, you don't have a job. So a lot of uncertainties, in as much as we are, like Clara was saying, when am I going to pay this loan? How am I going to be eligible to pay the loan? So we should look into and do more engagement, not just formalities of having meetings and engaging students, but it should be a meaningful, continuous engagement for us to understand, because after all, all these systems being done are for us as the students. Okay. So if there is an engagement from the word go from initial stages. Now that we have these, we're trying to understand it, we're trying to explain to the students of what is happening, trying to explain to parents. I'm rest assured that students don't know exactly how this model is, and if you don't know where the direction is, then
so it's still a grey area for most students then.
Yes.
So, Mushoki, do the people you lead understand what the model will look like? How much they're going to get the funding? Where is it going to come from? How will they pay it back? Is there some sort of explanation? Do they understand this?
No, and sadly, that's the current situation.
Yeah.
Even myself, I wouldn't lie and say that I really fully understand it. And I'm somebody who is very, very keen. Even my fellow leaders can actually comment on that. It's a rather vague way. It's structure. That's good. We always, as human beings, we love structure. But we do not exactly understand, okay, for example, students are being admitted with the 7% that's meant to be paid. The government hasn't disbursed the rest of the funding. So we don't understand when it's going to come, how it's going to come, how many students have been able to get this loan or this particular thing. They don't understand how, even post-university, that particular loan is going to be paid. And it even gets a bit worse because, for example, a student who is doing medicine and probably gets a loan of around 60%, okay, 55%, give or take, for, I think, the less needy category, and you have 7% that they're supposed to pay for by the household. Hypothetically, if 7% is going to be paid by the household, hopefully, if they don't pay it for themselves, then they will have to pay around over 1.2 million by the time they're done. This student does not know how exactly they will cater for it. That is, if we assume they even get employment post-university. So it's a sad situation. Again, that's why, as I began, I said that my biggest problem is with the ministry. It's that they have not taken the initiative to even tell people that, okay, this is what you're getting yourself into. You're getting a particular loan, and you're going to need to repay it, and you will need to repay it by any means. The skin of your teeth, whatever you do, whether you go sell mangoes or you get employment, we do not, and it has often occurred that the government does not really look into how to create employment for these particular students. So it's a very risky thing. There is need for the ministry to really educate students and their parents on how the current funding model is established, what is expected of them, what the outcomes also will look like. I think it's a very, very important and integral topic that should be tackled.
Yeah. Geoffrey, what do you tell your fellow students who come to you and ask you, so what's going on? How much am I going to get? Where is it going to come from? Do you understand the system yourself, the funding model? You said that there's a lot of gray areas there.
Yes, Trevor, when my constituents come to me to ask me about this issue, the only thing I tell them is we have to wait and see. Because when you go to the universities themselves, they don't really understand what the government is doing. Because even in the previous model, they never used to be paid on time. Yeah, so it was up to the university to mobilize resources, probably from the self-sponsored students, to cushion the students, so the government-sponsored students. So I want to agree with my good brother here, Mushoki, and say that the government needs to engage us. The government needs to engage the comrades. We as student leaders are ready to be engaged, to have these conversations, because you see, for a comrade, they look up to the presidents and the student leaders as the ones with the solutions and the answers. So you see, now, if we're not empowered enough to have these answers, then what are we really doing? So my take is for engagement. Let us have conversations with the ministry, let us have conversations with the government, so that we can work around this model, so that it can benefit the comrades.
Yeah. Cynthia, you seem to support this model, but your fellow presidents don't understand how it works, because they're saying there's a lot of gray areas. How do you understand? Do you understand how it works? Do you know? Is it more predictable to you?
For me, I think I'm looking at the future of it.
Yeah.
You know, whenever something new comes in the picture, there are always the many questions, the many speculations. Even when a cat just sees a roll of wool somewhere, they will just start poking it and seeing what is inside that piece of wool. And I think that is what we are doing as student leaders, as the government. It is a good plan, it is a good structure, but I believe there are those loopholes that if we fix, and if this thing becomes a success, it is going to take us from one milestone to another as a country. So I'm willing to give it a chance, but I will support my fellow leaders in this by saying that they should have done a lot of public participation. one meeting in Naivasha was not enough. They should have done a lot of media sensitization to simplify it into a more simpler and understandable form. But for me, I'm willing to give it a chance, and I still support it. Yourself and Monica seem to have been in that same meeting, right, in Naivasha. What came out of it? For me, I was not in that meeting. I was not yet the president, but I poked my nose into it, and I knew one or two about it. Yeah. And I've also been in touch with some of the HELB officials in Nakuru, and they have given me a better understanding of how it works. Yeah. At least now I can log in to the Higher Education Fund portal and be able to apply for my first year. So it's a good one. But aren't you concerned that this means testing that they propose seems to be a rather unpredictable way of telling whether we have the capacity or not? So for example, if last year I had someone who was paying for me, even if it is a sibling or a parent, and then I lose that parent, my level of my ability now shifts. Do they have the time to actually curate and see that, yes, last 2 years I was fine, this year is not? Actually, when I was helping my students last weekend, I realized that there is an icon, or there is a space for whether your parent is deceased. They give you that opportunity, and you even write that death certificate. So life changes, and for me, what I am insisting on is that it is a good model. Yeah. If we give it a chance and try to fix the loopholes that are in there, it is going to work very well. Okay. I'm very confident in it. I like your optimism, but Monica, is it really a good model? Do you agree with her? Because I think there are too many variables. Even though you can put a death certificate, but there are many other things. Somebody loses a job, somebody decides that they're not paying for you, even though they had agreed to pay for you last year. There are too many variables. You can't really tell that I'm still able to. Okay, as we are all coming out, we're not saying that the system itself is bad, but the surroundings of the system. And one thing that really captures my attention is the fact that bringing in a new system and claiming that there are no funds for it, that's the most funny part of it. Because again, we cannot be adapting to a new system and now facing the challenges of finance again. Can we deal with one at a go? So if you something new, you expect the public to have maybe different reactions to it, maybe others accepting it and others saying that it's not right. So if we bring in the new system, can we stop complaining about the funds and at least focus on now making it the system and making people understand it? Again, the information system that is channeled. I'm a law student, yes, and they said ignorance to law is not a defense. And by that, if you go to a court and it's like, I didn't know, no one will, it will not be a defense, and you'll be maybe convicted for the, whichever the offense you committed. But now again, I'm feeling like there is no much more channels in which communications are done, in which information is dispersed out there. I will say that we don't know, actually. As the leaders, we have very less information. Even in the universities, you go to some of the administrators and they're still waiting on the government, or they're still waiting for further guidelines on how they're going to be talking to students. I'm expecting to have orientations for first years on 25th of next month for my university. But I'm going to offices every day trying to find out how am I really going to address them, apart from the information that is placed out there. So I'll still talk of bettering ways on funding, and the government doesn't have money. It's an old adage. It has been said, it will always be said, but then again, we should do more on that, and then have more platform, because again, they say the internet is there to give you information, but if you Google or search anything online and you don't have the basics of what you want, maybe we don't think the same. Yeah. So if you go on to search for the information, it might not give you the accuracy. But now, that's why now we should be called and talked to. It was one thing that the model was decided on, but it is another thing for people to accept and understand it, which is, I feel, it's lacking. We have not been sensitized enough. The public has not been sensitized enough. In such cases, now there is a death. Because maybe you just filed the other day and tomorrow your parent is no more.
How are you going to deal with such a situation? Now you're trying to accept and accept the loss of a loved one. Yeah. And now you're also thinking of how you're going to get back to the university. Because previously you had said they're alive. And now in the next 1 week, you're mourning them and you're thinking of how to come back to the university. Do you expect such a student to come back? No. You know, they will be like, there's much more to life and this is difficult. I don't want to go through the same procedure. They go back to the portal to file and be like, you know, it reminds me of my parents and now I'm doing all of that. So it's a lot of things that surround it, and maybe there's a better way, because I know they might have seen the same challenge, but now we want them to tell us, how do we tell students in such occurrences? Yeah. What caution do we give them? Okay. Yes. I have to take a quick break here, but when I come back, I'd like to hear from you. What is the best way of communicating this to young students who are joining the universities? Because they say, like you've mentioned, Monica, that the information is online. How do you want them to disperse this information to you guys on the ground? That's a conversation we're going to have in just a bit. But for now, let's take a quick break. At Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya, use the hashtag Daybreak. We are back in a short while. I think Ibrahim Ahmed, President Mount Kenya University, will also be joining us shortly. All right?